It's been a long time since a new Isuzu's arrived in South Africa. In fact, in the meantime, all the major brands, Toyota, Ford, Mazda, have come up with new models, which means that the Isuzu fans have been somewhat left in the lurch. The good news is there's a brand new 6th generation Isuzu. It looks pretty handsome. It's certainly taller and larger than before. And we've come all the way to Hoedspruit to find out what this vehicle is really like.
For General Motors South Africa, the launch of the new 6th generation Isuzu KB range is arguably one of the most important events of the year, not only because GM is hoping for strong local sales, but also because the new KB will be built in Port Elizabeth for export to a long list of both right-hand drive and left-hand drive African countries. Recently appointed GMSA Managing Director Mario Spangenberg told media guests from across the continent that the company has high hopes for the Isuzu's sales potential in sub-Saharan Africa. With some clever industrial theatre utilising previous generation Isuzus creating a real sense of occasion, the new Isuzu finally made its debut as 3 all-new KBs came racing down the riverbed to much applause. But as they say in the classics, the proof is in the pudding, or in this case, in the driving. The launch event took place in the scenic surroundings of the Thorny Bush Private Game Reserve, providing plenty of opportunity to get to know the Isuzu a little better. Interesting from a bakkie perspective is GMSA's assertion that the shape of the KB has been aerodynamically honed in the interests of reduced drag, and thus improved efficiency. It also tends to help in tackling wind noise, which benefits comfort levels and refinement. But those who expected the new Isuzu to be even bigger, even taller, even more aggressive than its rivals might be disappointed.
The trend with modern-day bakkie design has been to go bigger and bolder, and certainly the new Isuzu has grown in size compared to its predecessor. It's also got a much more prominent grille, and that chrome and bright work is not going to be to everybody's liking. But it's not quite as big as some of its competitors, and that's not necessarily a bad thing.
Remember, the majority of one-tonners will spend much of their time in urban conditions where extreme size and elevation are hardly conducive to squeezing into tight shopping mall parking lots. In fact, that also goes for some of the twisty dirt tracks we traversed during the launch event. So the new Isuzu KB is beefy, but not in a pumped-up on steroids kind of way. The proportions are nicely balanced and there's a handsome sleekness to the design. Top-end models get plenty of bright work, handsome but impractical running boards and fancy alloy wheels, but the underpinnings remain true to the rugged bakkie ethos. A specially laid out 4x4 track provided a perfect first opportunity to find out just how competent the new KB is over challenging terrain. Our steed for this event was the 300 Alex 4x4 double cab, linking ample turbodiesel power to a proper 4x4 drivetrain with low range and a diff lock. The Isuzu had no difficulty at all conquering the various obstacles, ranging from very steep slopes to equally steep descents, as well as deep and muddy ruts, sections of standing water, and the kind of suspension twisters that will quickly expose any 4x4 shortcomings. The drivetrain allows on-the-fly shifting between rear-wheel drive and four-wheel drive modes using the rotary controller on the center console. You still have to stop to switch to low-range mode though. Much work has gone into ensuring that the Isuzu offers ample ground clearance and suspension articulation. The McPherson strut-based front layout is completely new, while the rear leaf springs have also been recalibrated. But how does that impact on comfort and refinement?
The key selling points of Isuzu has always been ride quality, and so the expectation's been that this new generation version will be even better than before, and that certainly appears to be the case. We've only driven this vehicle off-road, but the impressions we have is that it has retained that ability to provide a ride that is smooth and composed without becoming too soft. Part of the reason, of course, is a brand new front suspension, also the rear suspension being tweaked, and the result is a vehicle that has got load carrying capability, feels stable when you start driving with a bit of gusto, but always retains that sense of comfort and composure.
The problem bakkies grapple with, of course, is the multiplicity of roles they have to fulfill. They have to cope with a full 1-ton load when required, yet customers expect ride and handling traits akin to those of a regular sedan. The Isuzu impressed when pushed through a slalom course, especially considering it was running on off-road rubber. But those on-tar talents aren't achieved at the cost of gravel driving or off-road capability. Somehow the KB, at least in double cab guise as tested here, finds a very effective compromise between the varying demands of gravel and tar. It's certainly no softie, and the chassis isn't shy to communicate its intentions, which tends to boost driver confidence. And let's not forget that leisure-orientated vehicles such as our KB300 4x4 double cab test example will find themselves in the urban commute much more frequently than battling the rough stuff. On tar, the KB300 feels muscular and responsive with lots of low-down urge. Straight-line stability is good and it covers ground swiftly and smoothly. Isuzu is unusually coy about the KB's performance, but we guess that the 0 to 100 dash should take no more than 11 seconds or so, with a top speed of at least 175 kilometers an hour, thanks to the muscle of its 3-litre turbo diesel engine.
Isuzu buyers have a choice of 4 engines in the new KB range, starting off with a new 2.4-litre petrol engine, then 2 2.5-litre diesel engines, one a low-pressure turbo diesel version, and then the range-topping 3-litre, 130 kilowatt, 380 newton meters unit, which will certainly be the choice for leisure vehicle buyers.
In the tight, the combination of fairly quick steering and good visibility linked to a decent throttle response mean that the Isuzu always feels wieldy and controllable, impressive for a vehicle weighing around 2 tons. The almost obsessive emphasis on durability shines through in the way the KB negotiates ruts, corrugations and sudden bumps without complaint. No creaks, no rattles, no resonances, and it isn't scared of soaking up the rough stuff either. But for all its apparent durability, its attractive styling and its dynamic capabilities, the new KB's interior is likely to be a crowd pleaser too.
One of the biggest shortcomings of the previous generation Isuzu was the interior, which had started to look just a little bit dated. The good news is that the new model's cabin is a whole lot better. It's fresher, it's much more modern, and in fact, if you've seen a Chev Trailblazer, you'll recognize some of the design traits here.
The dashboard layout of this top-end Alex model is modern and accessible with just enough tech to remind you that this is a 21st century bakkie. The surfaces and textures are both attractive and durable, and there's an overall sense of reassuring longevity. It's debatable whether a double cab bakkie needs park distance control, but given its frequent deployment in the urban jungle, perhaps it will come in handy when trying to execute that perfect parallel parking maneuver. Much more pertinent in the modern motoring context are the likes of Bluetooth for audio and cellular communication, all-important climate control and USB-based iPod connectivity. Reassuringly, the KB300 Alex is fitted with no less than 6 airbags, front, side and curtain, as well as ABS brakes. I'm not sure that the brown leather upholstery will be to everyone's taste, and the embossed pattern adds an unnecessary element of kitsch. But ergonomically, there's little to fault here, and combined with a long standard features list, life behind the wheel of the new KB is a pleasure. For all its muscle and sophistication, that D-Tech engine still sounds a little rough around the edges, which may be forgivable in the bakkie context. But then, the KB300 Alex is far too sophisticated a machine to be saddled with an agricultural soundtrack. The new Isuzu KB won't find the going easy in a segment already contested by some very competitive players. But while this 6th generation range has joined the fray later than expected, the vehicle itself stands up to even the closest of scrutinies and is likely to please not only loyal brand supporters, but also those shopping the segment with a less brand-conscious mind. The attraction of a vehicle that can perform across a wide range of conditions, coping equally well with rough and tough off-road conditions and high-speed urban highways, is at the very core of the double cab segment's appeal. And the new Isuzu KB's versatility is certainly beyond dispute. But will that be enough to attract buyers in the numbers it needs?
The one-ton bakkie market is one of the most competitive in the South African vehicle market, and with good reason. Buyers straddle a whole load of different categories, from leisure to workhorse to corporate fleets. And of course, all of those buyers will be looking at the new Isuzu with keen interest. There are a lot of very powerful rivals here, from Ford, from Mazda, of course, Hilux being the market leader, and it's going to be interesting to see just how the Isuzu fares. But our first impressions are that it certainly has the looks, it has the interior, it has the packaging, and it looks like it has the dynamic capability to stand up to those rivals.
The new Isuzu looks the sleek contemporary part and links those talents to a muscular engine, thus creating a balanced all-round package that will excel in most conditions. Add the double cab's space and versatility, and Isuzu's new KB is a class act, except for an engine that can sound rough around the edges.